So Facebook ads just got a whole lot easier for getting into them for the first time. And the reason is a lot of the things you had to do for iOS 14 are going away and are no longer applicable. So to explain what that means, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to walk you through the history of this whole iOS 14 thing so we can put a pin in it and close that chapter of our Facebook ad lives and get into doing some ads. And so that'll mean for if you've already done all the setup stuff, you'll understand what you need to do. And if you haven't done it, you'll understand what you need to do and what you don't have to do, essentially. So going back all the way to roughly May 2021, Apple came out with iOS 14.5, which imposed a lot of privacy restrictions on how companies like Facebook, but also other companies, could track iPhone users' data online and inside of their applications. And part of the restrictions for that were you had to limit the amount of events you could track on a per domain basis. So let's say you have example.com as your domain name. They were putting a restriction on how many different events and activities that people could track on those websites. And so because of that, that meant that you had to register which events were mapped to your domain name, so if you owned example.com, but it also meant that if you wanted to run a conversion ad to track stuff, you had to have a domain name connected. And this was kind of an issue because a lot of people were music artists. If you're promoting music on Spotify, you'd be using ToneDen, Hyped It, Feature FM, which often you weren't using your own domain. You were using some other company's domain, but this was further than just music. This was also anyone that wanted to run any type of conversion ad, of course. So lead ads, sales ads, anything. You had to use a custom domain. And all the way from that May 2021 mark going up to about October 2021, if you didn't use a custom domain and register the events you wanted to track in your domain for Apple users, you couldn't run a conversion campaign on Facebook ads, period. And a lot of music artists don't have a domain. They're getting into promotion. They don't have a website yet. Now, October, what they did is they made the whole thing optional. But if you didn't do it, there was a big downside. What would happen is you could still run your conversion campaign on Facebook, but it wouldn't be able to target essentially anyone using an Apple device with iOS 14.5 or greater, which is most Apple users. If you don't know anything about people that have iPhones, they typically update their phone most people update their phone within a month of a new operating system version coming out, unlike Android users might go years without updating. So over time, that got more and more exaggerated. And what would happen is there would actually be a pop-up that would show to Apple users, do you want to allow Facebook to track all your actions happening across the internet? And most people would just say no. So if you didn't do the conversion campaign, you couldn't run your ads to those people at all, which meant that every music artist would have to go buy a domain, hook it up to their landing page provider, and use it to run ads. So before I get into what this actually means for you, I just want to mention that I have a new newsletter called the Music Marketing Monday newsletter. It's completely free. Every single Monday, I'm going to send a newsletter out with actionable music marketing tips to help you out in your music marketing journey. So click the link in the description, enter your email, and you're in. It's free. That's it. More content. So let's talk about what this iOS 14 change means for your marketing on Facebook ads. Well, first thing, if you already went through the trouble of setting up all your custom domains and mapping your events and all that jazz, you don't have to do anything. You're good. Everything is still going to work just fine. If you want to hook up your domains, which I still do recommend doing, you can still connect your domain to your landing page platform. You can still verify that domain on Facebook, but it's completely optional. If you don't do it, you can still run your ads to iOS users. There's no penalty for doing that. Now, if you haven't done any of this stuff yet, and you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically you don't have to do any of that domain mapping at all, meaning this was a huge obstacle for a lot of artists. They would want to be able to run ads, promote their music, but they couldn't because they didn't have a domain name. And they had to buy the domain name. And all of a sudden they had to learn a little bit about how websites work and domain names work, and then have to connect that domain name to the service, and caused a lot of trouble for a lot of artists. So if you're new to this, everything just got a whole lot easier for you. And for those of you that have already done it, nothing changes. So this is a positive thing at the end of the day. So make sure to click that link to join the new newsletter. We should all celebrate this change that's happening. But I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.